So it is with great pain and great sorrow that I must, once again, welcome you all back to Sonichu. This time we are covering issue 12, and again, because it's the most important thing in Chris's life, we're starting the comic off with a cover of the different Sonichus attending the Kvikville SLGBTQ Pride Festival. Here's to hoping it actually, means something this time. However, there's also this alternate cover featuring Roberta Sonichu in full getup and makeup. Now, if you needed evidence of any caliber that Chris honestly doesn't really care about anyone's transition but her own, despite this being her own character who transitioned at the very end of the last issue, Chris still decides to use her male name. Classy. Chris also pops up to say, "It's too bad the theoretical ex-girlfriend of mine behind this pink cat turned troll on me. Otherwise, this might have been the cover of Sonichu 12 some time ago. This relationship didn't last long for Roberta. I'm sorry." The relationship in question is with the girl known as Jackie, who turned out to be a troll. Yes, that Jackie. You know, the one who encouraged Chris to do cake farts? That Jackie? The Jackie who encouraged Chris to go out on a date with her blow-up sex doll? And who then encouraged her to do sex videos where she fucked this sex doll, complete with a big finish, and a meme was born with the things that were said during that video? Yeah, that Jackie. So the comic begins in earnest with episode 25, To Be or Not a Tom Girl. And no, this shares zero correlation with Shakespeare in any shape or form. We get a monologue by Roberta that explains how after her evolutionary growth spurt, she had an epiphany. And that epiphany was that all guys are apparently jerks who are only interested in blood, zombies, pain and destruction and don't care about people in general. While yes, there's some truth to men typically being interested in these kinds of things, need I remind you of the slew of teenage girls who were very into zombies. I mean, very into zombies. Twilight, look up Twilight. Roberta goes on to explain how she grew up in a nice and friendly household, but once her sisters hit their growth spurt, they started instilling some wisdom into Roberta. For example, Sarah, who was plenty of wisdom, says, "Listen, Robbie, from my perspective, I have encountered a number of boys who were sluggish and dumb." Wow, yeah, she's real wisdom if you can't even spell dumb right. "And some who were cruel and heartless. Yet there are a few kind-hearted ones. You're one of the few good ones. Never think of that being slow and rules is obligatory. You can only be yourself, and you do not have to change yourself or what you like for anyone. You stay a loving little champ, bro." Yeah, love yourself and don't change what you like for anyone. Maybe make an exception if that thing you like is your mom, I'm just saying. Anyway, Christine also parted some words of wisdom to Roberta. "Well, the boys I met were super nice to me. I have witnessed the occasional broken up fights and the friendly punches, which did not look friendly to me. Stacy went out with this jog one time. He embarrassed her at the Paris restaurant by juggling the escargot. After they broke up, Stacy went out with this always quiet boy on the chance he would be more smart. It turned out he was an ignorant jerk. On the first chance he got, he pranked her bad. He sent her out to rescue a cat. It was a skunk. Anyway, you're one of the good boys and you should stay that way." Who the fuck goes out on a date and is like, "Hey, you want to save a wild animal?" Huh? No, not together. No, you go save the animal. I'll stay here. Don't worry. I'll hold down the fort. Roberta also sought guidance from Sonichu and Rojaru. Sonichu is very set in his ways and Rojaru feels fuck all by just giving those typical "whatever you do is the right thing" type of answers. Maggie-chan on the other hand is a freaking travesty of guidance, however. Roberta asks him for help and Maggie-chan goes, "Young Robert, your life is an extensive journey to your individual self-discovery. I know how it ends up, but to tell you now would deprive you of the worthwhile learning and experiences." And then immediately continues to say, "And I can and will offer one true answer. Robert, your soul is indeed female." Also, really quickly gonna bring this one up, but the beginning of the comic makes it sound like Roberta wasn't coming to the realization that she may not be like other boys after hitting her growth spurt. But we are clearly seeing her asking these questions and mulling these things over before that growth spurt. Anyway, of course, because this has something to do with being trans, this can't be exclusively about Roberta. No, we gotta get Christine back in the mix. So, of course, Christine suggests that Roberta looks up the Human Rights Campaign for more information. Roberta also realized that the guy who looks like a mixture of a penis and a thumb beat up on Roberta because he was secretly gay. Thumbman goes, "So, T-Sap, you know I'm gay?" To which Roberta explains, "Yeah, and I will hate you." So much for inclusivity. I'm being serious, I didn't answer this. This is literally what's being said. It's weird. Anyway, Thumbman Deluxe and Roberta makes up, and Roberta finally decides it's time to confess her thoughts and findings to her sisters. And you can tell right off the bat Christine isn't close to any sort of siblings, as Roberta's sisters keep saying stuff like, "Yes, love," and calling her a cutie pie. The last time I confided in my sister, she called me a fuckhead dildo. Anyway, Roberta comes right out and says that she's totally a woman and that her name is now Roberta Sonichu. Sarah and Christine are quick to support their new sister as they exclaim how much fun they're gonna have and how they're gonna make each other outfits and stuff, including how they're gonna rough it up together at the pride gatherings. Apparently this moment was what Roberta needed to digivolve, as she now looks like Sonichu but with eyelashes. Also, this of course renders Roberta naked, and she's now just standing amongst her sisters getting an erection. But hey, it's family, so there's nothing sexual there.
Friend, they revealed that Chan had allegedly engaged in incest and rape of her 80-year-old mother Barbara, who has dementia, and allegedly she did this multiple times. Apparently Chan has been living with and taking care of Barbara for years now, and that...
Anyway, Roberta continues to monologue. "Yeah, they kept cool heads while I freaked. We cleaned the mess up with carpet cleaner." Hi, yes, pardon, excuse me, what the fuck, huh? Hello? Bro, did you fucking orgasm? The hell? The hell needed carpet cleaning after that? Anyway, Roberta explains further how her sisters helped getting outfits and such for her, including sewing it and going out to shop for panties and bras. As contrived and self-grandizing as this is, cause this is obviously only in there to highlight Christine's own transition, I gotta admit this is kinda wholesome. There's something I can appreciate about the family accepting Roberta as she is and coming together to help her. Of course, there's the whole bullshit thing that Christine believed that listening to audio was gonna transform her body into a woman's body, and so of course Roberta has to go through the same thing by the hands of Maggie-chan. So Roberta goes to visit him in the tower high above Kivikville, where Maggie-chan and 5 level 100 Alakazams are keeping a watchful eye over the city. Honestly, again, I can appreciate this concept as weird as it sounds. I always do appreciate when magical stuff is taken to a logical real-world use, which is very unlike the bullshit binaural beats that Maggie-chan gives to Roberta, claiming they're gonna help with her transition. Also, I don't know why, but this page is just riddled with spelling errors. Normally Chris has been pretty good at not doing these, but here it's all over the bloody map. It's insane. Like, complete set of binaural beats with my side chick power, and then of course the no sukuri. Anyway, Roberta listens to the binaural beats, and because, you know, almost everything Chris knows about women comes from porn, it's not enough that Roberta gets a pair of B cups. No, they of course have to be big old pair of double Ds. which I'd like to remind you is on a 14-year-old kid. I kind of feel some Maiden Abyss fans are like salivating around the mouth over this, but then again, 14 may be a little too old. And then again, there's the whole part where she's not being pissed on, so that might be a turn-off for these people. Anyway, Roberta is summoned back to Mega-chan and look at his mans! I don't know why, but just looking at him fucking finds me, bro. Anyway, Mega-chan explains why he summoned Roberta. It's because he wants to check Roberta out, and then concludes that Roberta is now a fully functional female, to which Roberta exclaims triumphantly and gets a PlayStation trophy. Okay. Roberta continues her monologue, explaining how Roberta pursued romance with some of her old friends, one of which being Miss Vulvapie. Yes, really? I don't know how this slipped past Christine, who must at least have looked up what a vagina consisted of, seeing she believes she had one growing in her taint. Surely she must have known at least what a vulva is. Anyway, Vulvapie had to move away as her mother, the aforementioned Jackie, that Chris was believing to date, leaked all the information she had on her. And she featured this in her comic cause of course she did. Moving quickly along, because that part there was really only there for Chris to vent, Roberta meets up with Chris in the mall to go shopping for blouses, dresses and skirts. Unfortunately, the new Sonic Boom game had just come out. Even I still feel at unease of Sega blue-arming Sonic like that. I legit don't know why it surprises me that this is in there, when Christine felt so strongly about this that she was willing to threaten people with bombs and threatening to kill people over it, but I legit just didn't think this was ever gonna get mentioned in the comic. Christine goes off to quell the insult that is the blue arms, and all I can think of is that I think this is a prequel to when Chris went and trashed the standee at a GameStop that got her banned. Which, you know, is honestly fascinating to me that she now including her character acting out scenarios that happen in real life. Like, sure, we've had all this stuff like where Chris's dog died and stuff, but that was the dog dying and then magically turning into a cartoon character. So it's like the real event gave way for the fantastical retelling, but here it's just straight up the real event retold. Anyway, Roberta forgets all about the sale or the vandalizing as she spots a cute girl, and I must once again read the conversation aloud so you can hear just how unnatural this conversation is. Hi there. Hello? You look pretty. Thank you. You're cute too. Thanks. I'm Roberta. My name is Mimi. I like your eyes and you look well groomed. Do you often go to a spa? Who, me? Nah, I visit the spa once a month, but mostly I shower nightly and brush all over. Me too. I can afford a lovely spa treatment once a month. I do like doing myself all over to be as gorgeous as I can be. My sister Christine likes to be covered in glitter, jewelry, and sparkling attire. Wow, it must be nice to have a sibling, someone to watch out for your safety. My heart has been broken a few times. Oh dear, I'm there with you. I don't want to feel my heart break again, and I keep caution for others around me too. You want to get some coffee and continue our chat? Yes, that would be lovely. Like bro, it's so awkward and stiff and unnatural. Topics are jammed in there to change at the drop of a hat. It's fucking weird, bro. Anyway, because Chris has this idea that dating is easy and it's all just about girls being boyfriend free, it takes a few dates before Roberta and Mimi end up in the sack. But that's completely ignored as we quickly move on to November 15 on the street of Brunchville Lane where Roberta is in full rainbow getup. Apparently, Roberta wants to record herself running around in the sky and creating rainbows. How she'll fly up there, you might ask? Well, because she's an electric hedgehog, she'll be able to generate clouds under each step that she can then run on. I mean, common sense, am I right? And sure enough, Roberta runs up in the skies, creates a sonic boom, and that... it causes a rainbow explosion because it does, I guess. And this episode ends off with Roberta's final monologue. That rain boom echoed north and southward for hundreds to thousands of miles along the United States East Coast that day. Our view of it lasted for a minute before It started raining from sit downward. I can't. Sorry. For your consideration, I was a tomgirl, a boy who liked feminine things better than the typical male things. We do exist alongside the tomboys and everyone else. Not all of us turn out trans or lesbian, but I was one of the rest who actually was a female soul that physically transformed myself and loved other women. I am Miss Roberta Sonichu, level 22 plus on this date, July 14, 2017. I live with my family. I am loved by them and my friends. I love all of my family and friends with all of my heart too. But all importantly, with all my heart, I love me. And then finish it off with a Michael Jackson quote. Honestly, there's a bunch of dumb stuff here. No, the comic isn't done well. It's actually pretty terrible. It's all over the place, but it's kind of cute in a way. It's kind of endearing. Yes, it is flawed to hell and back. A lot of it doesn't make sense. I have a personal beef with the whole binaural beats thing because I have a bone to pick with alternative medicine. But ultimately, this is fine. Let's hope that Chris can keep this up for the next episode. But first, ad time. Do you know what the pinnacle of human failure is? It's when you go to log in somewhere and it says it's the wrong password. Then you punch in the same password, maybe capitalizing one letter here, adding a number there, maybe throwing in a question mark for good measure, and it keeps telling you that the password is incorrect. So you finally bite the bullet and you figure, alright, time to use the lost password function that every fucking site has. Then you have to go through all those bullshit questions like what was your first dog's name and how far could you pee when you were 11 and shit like that. And then when you finally get to the point where you can make a new password, you punch in your password and the fucking thing goes, your new password can't be the same as your current password. Seriously, if you have not thought about hurting another human being when encountering this stuff, you are a bold-faced liar if you try to tell me that. Well, luckily you can now fix that shit with NordPass. NordPass not only lets you generate complicated and near impossible to crack password, but it also helps you store all of your passwords in a single app. So none of that shit where you have it written on a post-it or on the back of a manual somewhere or whatever. No, NordPass decided they wanted to...
We're here to kill chaos.
And keep it all nice and easily stored in one secure place. Let me tell you, I've started working full-time in an office now, and the amount of passwords I've had to keep track of is nuts. I'm legit using NordPass for it, and it's been a lifesaver constantly. It's even gotten so far, I've gotten almost everyone in the office to use it. Shit just works. It also doesn't hurt that this is from the lovely people behind NordVPN, so they know what they're doing. So now I once again offer you this genius service, and if you use this link here or use the coupon code WCR at checkout, you can get 50% off your annual NordPass subscription and get a whole month for free so you can check it out and see if it's something for you. Once again, thank you to NordPass for letting me plug their product here on this show. I honestly don't know how you keep letting me get away with this stuff, especially seeing the kind of bullshit that I cover. The next episode, titled Episode 26, Prideful, starts out actually not terrible. We're thrown right into the thick of things with Chris fighting Night Zerg, while a monologue is waxing poetics about why we as people feel hatred. And then, for whatever reason, to cap off this talk about hate, Chris starts going, I have been asked before, why don't you reboot Sonichu? I respond, how dare! My stories are the histories of all my Sonichus, Roastus, and the city and community of Convictville, and I love my electric hedgehog family too much to damn them all that way. Also, my past books were practice and works in progress. I hate this because it's some dumb shit to cap off this whole thing about hate thing, but the stuff that Chris is saying right now is actually the kind of shit that I've been preaching for years now. I think it speaks volumes that I am this dumbfounded that Chris actually gave honest to God good advice. Anyway, we move on to Chris explaining how what led up to the fight with Weltnack was... Wait, Weltnack? So, Chandler backwards. Wasn't it Night Zerg before, or am I tripping? Anyway, we're at the very first LGBTQ SLGBTQ festival in Kvikville. This is where we see the accuser of God's people thank someone called Stegel for his general donation to their soup hotels. Now, I need to talk about this. This right here is the Canadian YouTuber D-Stacks. D-Stacks became known as one of the bigger YouTubers who do read-throughs of Sonichu while criticizing them in much the same way I'm doing. However, after reaching the Sonichu Christmas episode, the same one I left off at, he left Sonichu for good. It would however seem D-Stacks started feeling bad about earning money off of his Sonichu videos, claiming himself that he was making money off of bullying Chris and her work. As of such, he would go on and donate $1,000 to Chris's Etsy shop, essentially buying 100 pages worth of Sonichu comics, with the intent of making Chris produce volume 11 of Sonichu. I believe it's speculated that D-Stacks did so because then he would technically be a producer of Sonichu and thus he couldn't review it out of personal bias and involvement. It's also speculated he did it simply because he was feeling bad for covering Sonichu to the extent that he did, and wanted to make up for it by buying 100 pages of Sonichu that Chris took over 550 days to produce. I don't really know one way or the other, honestly. I remember watching D-Stacks and thinking, wow, his humor is something I can only strive to achieve, back when all he was doing was Sonichu videos. And I personally didn't think he was being too harsh on Chris to feel sorry about it. But it's ultimately not up to me to say when someone should feel like they've wronged someone. That's entirely up to them. I'm just sad to see D-Stacks isn't making videos on YouTube anymore, as the last video he uploaded is a full 4-hour-long live stream in which he watches Neil Breen's I Am Here Now movie in its entirety on YouTube. And you can just go watch it. Meanwhile, I can upload an in-depth analysis of Gurren Lagann using nothing but images and audio and I get a fucking copyright strike. Thanks, YouTube. Anyway, everyone's having fun at the festivities that are going on at the festival. Meanwhile, Chris and the Sonichu crew, along with this person whom I think is supposed to be Chris's made-up sister, are having a picnic talking about powers and magic. Apparently, because there's nothing Chris can do, I guess, Chris now also has psychic powers and can levitate things. And of course, all the Sonichus and Roachus take turn in sucking Chris off with how amazing she is for her powers and sheer attitude in all of this. Must be nice to just create your own cheer squad like this. There's then this one page, page 33, and I honestly feel like this reads what it feels like to have a panic attack. Just a bunch of weird conversations, none of which are connected to each other in any way, with words coming from all around the place where you don't know who's saying what to whom and why. But, be that as it may, I kinda want to return to that cause afterwards we see Russell and Cynthia. Who is that, I hear you ask? Well, they're Chris's children. Yeah, remember that from the previous episode? Where Chris somehow managed to impregnate herself? You know, someone told her to go fuck herself and she actually went and did it? And no, that's not me just being haha funny. No, here's the words from Chris's social media. He did the thing from between her old cock and moving the spunk into her vag and had to stay stuck in Sonichu form until Russell and Cynthia were born for a few weeks. After that, she went back to her human form and she had to go through the similar quick process that Roberta went through, but the estrogen was coming in quicker with C-Chan since her app form was now female.
But wow, what a moment in history. I'll never forget that. I won't forget that one.
So after Russell and Cynthia run up to their deadbeat mother who went out for smokes and never came back again and say how much they miss her, their babysitter Heather comes and retrieves them away. Like, you know those people who feel like they only got kids because they figured it'd make an interesting TikTok video? Yeah, that's Chris. After Heather takes the kids away, Chris is obviously complimented some more, and for some reason Chris replies by holding up a cover of her old comic without anyone saying anything that relates to that cover. It's just there. Speaking of just being there, all of a sudden there's Patty, and Darkbind, and Selena, and Bionic and Megagi. All characters that were introduced and ultimately ignored. Anyway, hidden in the back we got Weltnack, who doesn't recognize Chris due to her now being a woman, but is able to sense her magic and thus confirm it is indeed Chris. Also, I would like you to keep in mind that we are at the SLGBTQ festival because Chris is celebrating her being trans when I'm saying this next thing here, okay? So Weltnack is pissed at Chris for stabbing him with a syringe filled with her own blood that cured his gayness. Anyway, after his defeat, his lady friend Kel took him all around Johto to catch Pokemon and get badges. Anyway, Weltnack realized during their journey that he was, in fact, still gay and thus slipped away like a thief in the night. And then the ESRB gets turned to M as Weltnack finally found Chris and is about to give her a piece of her mind. Christian Weston Chandler, a high-functioning autistic dipwad, you are a pitiful waste of space. You are homophobic, since you wanted to try silencing my gay away. You're Sonichu even outraged at such labels. You are fat and overweight. You are not work because you cover in fear of being fired, like when you insulted that co-worker. And after a bad day that was of your undoing, you cried after dumping trash onto yourself from the dumpster's edge. You hide behind signs to meet women. You look like a perverted freak. You act like a real numbnuts because you don't respond to your fans. You are a pathetic example of any male. You have half of guts to react when the happenings are not in your favor. You're so introverted. Your heart's a collapsed shell. You've let yourself get blackmailed and deceived by those you call trolling stupid. What is it gonna take to make you work for yourself while you're stuck in that depression and naive shell of yours? You're sick, twisted, and broken, pathetic excuse for a human being, Christian. And of course, Chris has a response. Yes, Weltnack, not Sue Nightzirk. I was naive, I was depressed for a long while, and I was prone to online deception. I was also still searching deep within myself to figure out myself. But I have found myself. I have matured mentally and emotionally. I was not a man. I have been a woman in soul, and now I'm all woman. And I still am attracted to women. I'm a lesbian, and I was a trans woman. I have become more self-confident, and I felt better to opening myself to more people. I have dispelled my phobias, and it has been good. I feared the trolls and was able to differ between the sincere fan and the insincere bully. Now, as long as I'm still talked about, I see them all as similar, and I answer and respond at my own time. My other life situations you do not fully understand, and those which hold me back, and I am more required at home and for my family. My heart is not an empty crevice, and I was misunderstood and mislabeled by a lot of bad people. I have shown and proved my kindness from the heart, and to you, Weltnack, I owe a ton of apologies. There is good in those who are gay, because that is who those people and you are. I personally never really had any reason to dislike men at all. We all are people, and we are who we are, but the great hatred within you, Weltnack, had to be quelled to prevent an army of hatred to rise regardless. I am proud of you, of myself, and everyone who are themselves and love everyone. I legit think that if Chris had just said, I know you are, but what am I? That would have been a better response than this. While Chris does reply to a lot of the criticism Weltnack throws her way, it's ultimately just bullshit. No, you're not needed at home. You may have been needed at home as time went on because your mom got older and older, but what you really needed was just to head out and get a job so you didn't have to scam your audience for money. I love how the whole job thing is the one thing that got brought up the most against her, and it's the one she responded the least to. Also, you gotta adore the whole, I will not be deceived anymore, said person that would then continue to get deceived again and again to the point where she now believes her entire fictional world is real. Anyway, Weltnack and Chris try and make up, and they do seem to end on amicable terms, and Chris apologizes for curing Weltnack's gayness, which is a sentence. As Weltnack leaves, he is suddenly pulled into the ground. It turns out the evil, scheming villain is Roberta Sonichu from Volume 1. Okay. So Mecha Sonichu enlists Weltnack back into his army, completely dumping ass on the personal journey that he's been on like Chris worked at Blizzard. Huh? What's that? That joke about Blizzard was extremely forced? I guess so. It's not like they both sexually assault people. The Sonichu and Rojaru team gets ready to kick some ass while the Mecha Sonichu turns Weltnack back into his green Sonichu form. As Chris rallies her troops, she gets a vision from the future in which she gets whacked on the back of her head. She doesn't address it, however, and instead tells everyone to fight for love and equality, while all the Sonichus and Rojaru seemingly throw up the horns. After some worrying display of love that transcends that of normal family between Chris and her sister, especially after recent events, the two transform into their Sonichu forms. They are applauded by a taunting Weltnack, who is now back in his human form. Only to transform back into his Sonichu form again for some reason. Anyway, Chris and Crystal does their best Sailor Moon impression and tell Weltnack that they'll punish him for what I do not know. Anyway, they're about to fight when the jerk-up sneaks up behind Chris and tries to attack her, just like she saw in her premonition. It however turns out that the jerk-up was in fact Chris's brother Cole Smithy for no reason other than reminding us that hey, Chris has a turbulent relationship with her brother. Weltnack tackles Chris and mounts her, about to beat the daylight out of her. Chris, however, thinks that she's about to be raped for whatever reason. Weltnack can get to Chris, however, because her medallion has conveniently been upgraded so only Chris's touch can transform her back into her human form.
How convenient is that? Wow, how convenient is fucking that?
Anyway, Christine yeets Weltnack off of her with her psychic powers, cause yes, remember she has those now, and we move back to look at what everyone else is doing. And everyone are fighting off the jerk-ups. Subpoena, Simola, Rojaru, Punchy, the Mayor, Roberta, Mega-chan, and Silva, and so on. After the fight, Chris, who I forgot to mention was in a subspace dimension fighting Weltnack earlier, steps out, holding Weltnack like a fucking child. Like, look at this shit. Anyway, before they can fully incarcerate the jerk-ups, they are teleported away by Graduon, the evil wizard who apparently was using Metal Sonichu as a medium earlier or some shit. Honestly, I can't stress enough how confusing this mess of a comic has become. Anyway, the attack is over, and although there's some destruction here and there were no casualties, so yay. Hey, wasn't this the SLGBTQ event that Chris said there was no attack on thanks to her being able to look into the future? Alright, so, okay, this is gonna be a tough one. The episode has technically ended, but there's a bonus page where Christine explains her coming out story. Now, when you're dealing with something so serious, and you even have a memorial picture of Bob down in the corner, and you know that Chris's family wasn't at first accepting of Chris coming out as trans, you would expect this to have a somber and serious tone. Well, we've already established how Chris is tone deaf, and this is no exception, cause fuck me. Out of all of this, there's a mention in passing how Bob passed away, but everything else is about Chris, and only about 20% of it is real. The rest is this bullshit made up mumbo jumbo that Chris has made up, believing to have memories from a past life, and that was a reason for her being trans. It just feels so wrong, you know? Like, this is such a personal, poignant, and somber moment that actually happened in Chris's life. And meanwhile, Chris is over here spinning a fucking web about how she used to be a lesbian in Woodstock, which has now been retconned because now Chris legit believes she's the second coming of Jesus fucking Christ. And no, I am not fucking kidding. The monologue continues, but ultimately I just feel it's wrong. I know it's a story about Chris and all, but the fact that Bob gets so little mention just feels odd. Like, this is the time he died, and the only thing mentioned about him was that he wasn't fond of Chris wearing skirts at first, but then grew to accept it. To Chris's credit, however, she does mention how she was wrong for being homophobic before, and actually addresses the comments she made earlier. And that's how this volume ends, with even more self-grandizing and deluded bullshit. Now, before we get to the last episode of this volume, we need to talk. In case I have not made it blatantly obvious to you guys with the jokes I made earlier since my latest video on Sonichu, some stuff has happened as Chris, as of writing this script, is awaiting trial for raping her mother Barbara multiple times. There's been various stories coming out about the person who got this confession out of Chris, and some of it could point to Chris's innocence, but for now we'll have to see. I just wanted to bring this up because there's always this one person in the comments going, "Boy, do I have news for you," on some of my older videos. Like, bro, I practically springboarded my career off of Sonichu and Christian. Even if I don't want to know, I'll find out about Chris on the day. I may not have a big footprint in Christory, but Christory has a big footprint in me, as little as I wanted to. I don't think I knew what I was going into when I decided to cover Sonichu. Episode 24, Part 2, The Clip Show. And the comment reminds us that Sonic the Hedgehog is being played by Savannah Rosedew from issue 11 here. If this sounds like some convoluted Kingdom Hearts bullshit, it's because it is. Sonichu and Sonic are chilling out in the food court of the Kvikville shopping center, talking about how Sonichu and Rosedew got married. We get a flashback to the wedding where Rosedew is incredibly nervous about tying the knot with Sonichu, and everyone are buzzing with anticipation and excitement for the wedding. Bubbles, during all of this, gets scared by a gigantic spider and thus shoots out a bunch of water. Having to dry her dress, she retreats into a room where Sonichu enters as well to get his phone. So Sonichu bumps into the naked Bubbles, and wouldn't you know it, the bride, who normally doesn't roam the fucking halls of the church out of a tradition, but what the fuck ever, Rosedew also enters the room and spots the two. Now, if this sounds like a little too well-written drama for Chris to come up with, that's because it is. This is in fact one-to-one lifted from a fan comic made by someone going by the name John Crayon. Boy, it sure sounds like the one true creator of Sonichu isn't the one true creator. Seeing literally everything in Sonichu is stolen from other pieces of fiction. However, Chris opted to let the blatant stealing stop there, and instead of having a fight with Bonnie O'Hare, yes, that happened, Rosedew instead just laughs it off and all is forgiven, and the wedding can carry on as normal, where Chris is going to walk Rosedew to the altar cause, remember, she's her parent. And thus the two get married and the flashback ends. And then, to just really confuse and befuddle you further, Sonichu says, "Also, despite what Mr. John Crayon would have you think, no rabbits were harmed before, during, or after the wedding." So Chris is just straight up acknowledging that she lifted off someone else's comic. Great. That's just perfect! And we had a honeymoon at the tall hotel by the beach of Kvikville, able to see across the shores of Maryland. Regardless, I never regret it, period. She and I, we are like a typical husband and wife couple, and our union of compassion continues to inspire thousands to millions of people. It is refreshing to find the most heartfelt fan art and stories of fan fiction, putting Rosie and I in awesome drawn and stylish romantic scenes. Chris, I think you're overselling your popularity, just a smidge. Anyway, Sonichu continues to now explain to Sonic about the time Rosedew was hospitalized. And once again, just to show how little Chris cares about trans people that are not herself, she deadass keeps dead naming Roberta again. It's a little sad that I, the asshole, am being more respectful to the fictional character than its own creator. Anyway, Rosedew's hospitalization isn't as dramatic as you would think. She just eats shit down a flight of stairs. Instead of rushing Rosedew to the hospital with his supersonic speed, Sonichu instead rushes to Rosedew to sit with her till the ambulance arrives. What a big old hero he is. Anyway, Rosedew was taken to the hospital because both of her legs were broken. However, because Chris doesn't care about how the human body works, 2 weeks later she is right as rain again. Like, no cast or anything. Standing completely fine. Alright. But oh no, it seems like there are some lasting damage, and that is that Rosedew has gained a few pounds. I know, right? What horror! Right, so for those of you who didn't watch my Christian documentary, you might have missed the part where Chris decided to hook up with a girl who allegedly had a very open kink for fat people. Chris, being Chris, decided to cater to her specifically by fattening herself up further than she already was, as well as implement this chapter here. Just goes to show that if you promise Chris anything similar to a vagina, she'll bend over backwards for it. Anyway, Rosedew comes home to find that the rest of the family has cooked dinner for her return. She then continued to eat the entire family dinner on her own because she needs to get fattened up so Chris can get lucky. Anyway, Sonichu sends his children out to get pizza so he can have a talk with Rosedew. Really, all the conversation boils down to is that Rosedew is fat and she wants to eat a lot of food. which is freaking dumb because Chris makes a specific point earlier to point out that the only reason Rojaru ate so much at the dinner table prior was to make her family who cooked for her happy, and that she was in fact very self-aware about her gaining weight. Well, all of that shit is out the window now, isn't it? Anyway, Sonichu starts poking Rojaru's belly, which would get you killed where I'm from, let's just be real. He also seems to, for whatever reason, interject about the sheer quality of the pizza he got to try that Roberta had ran off to get. Like, why, bro? Why? Anyway, despite having just talked about how much she loved food, she then caves in and once again claims she just ate because she wanted to make Sonichu and the children feel happy. Sonichu, however, disregards all of that because he thinks touching Rojaru's fat stomach feels good. Which, hi, yeah, it's me again. Do you not have 3 fucking children? Was Rojaru not big during that? Anyway, the comic reminds us that things are gonna get steamy and that the comic is intended to be a TV-Y7 despite, that thing happening that we don't talk about. We move on to the next day where Sarah spots Rojaru still being fat. She even jokingly asks if they're having another egg in the family, which again just makes me ask the question whether or not Sonichu has not seen Rojaru pregnant. Sarah seems to be doing her hardest to encourage Rojaru to exercise and lose weight, but literally all Rojaru is thinking about is food. Sarah then confides to Roberta about how panicky they are over Rojaru being fat despite she's been big for less than a day. Rojaru then goes and buys $150 worth of Girl Scout cookies and devours the entire thing herself, and Sonichu also feeds her till she becomes absolutely massive. I'm a little worried that the same people who got my craving control video so many views are gonna find this video. I'm honestly a little afraid. Sarah too seems to be getting in on the craze of eating herself fat, but never mind that shit, cause all of a sudden, Sonichu is teleported to a place by the evil Count Graduon, and he's also managed to take Rojaru captives as well as Christine. For Sonichu to save them, he has to pass Count Graduon's 3 challenges. The first of which is for Sonichu to swim down the river to the next cave entrance. But it turns out it's not your everyday water in the river. No, it's pickle brine. Look, I don't know, okay? I'm just going with the flow here. So despite Sonichu being so fast he should easily be able to walk on water, he decides to leap into the brine and sure enough swells to become incredibly fat looking. However, due to his size, he seems to be floating on the brine just fine and makes it to the cave. Here Graduon taunts him some more and introduces him to the next obstacle of having to climb a tunnel that gets more narrow the further he goes. Sonichu does this and happens to get incredibly thin during this one climb that at the same time robs him of all of his quills. Also, what's with these trials? Float down a river and crawl up through a hole. Yes, and for my last trial, you must cross the road. Yes! Do remember to look both sides of the road before you cross, okay? Actually, the last trial seems to be 2 doors. One door leads to Christine, the other to Rojaru. Both rooms are on fire, and he can only save one. Despite, again, being part Sonic and thus able to run faster than the speed of light, thus being able to trivialize the entire issue, Sonichu has a mental breakdown in not knowing who to save. He eventually chooses Rojaru, who has not only inexplicably slimmed down, but also punched a hole to Chris's room, allowing all 3 of them to escape. But as a final obstacle for Sonichu, as Chris and Rojaru fuse to make the humongous Rojaru, who then collapses on top of Sonichu, pinning him. Sonichu then wakes up being crushed by Rojaru in the bed. Sonichu explains to Rojaru about the nightmare he just had, and Rojaru admits she is tired of being fat as well. So she and Sarah decide to shed the pounds, and in true Chris fashion, they manage to do that in less than 2 weeks. I don't think that even with a personal trainer you will be able to go from morbidly obese to fit skinny girl in less than 2 weeks. But then again, this is Chris we're talking about, so, normalcy and common sense doesn't really apply here. We move back to Sonichu telling the entire story to Sonic. They finish off before Amy Rose and Rojaru finds them and they go their separate ways. And that's how this episode and volume end. Right? Right? There's this bonus comic, for whatever reason, where Sonichu and Rojaru's daughters are hanging out with the cast from My Little Pony because God hates me. A Chris pony steps on stage and explains they made a new song. A song that contains a little country, a little techno, you know how we do. Now, I'm obviously not gonna sing it, but you know how most songs tend to rhyme? Have this little thing called rhythm? Yeah, none of that here. Like, for example, I'ma drop that bass. I show y'all a pace. Okay, I see you. Rocking that jiff, jamming the beats. I break down my style. Okay. My savvy, my awesome, rock hard soul, a master feats. This is, by the way, a song called Love is Love. Don't really know how this has to do with the lyrics we just heard, but maybe that's just me. Honestly, the song more feels like a type of infomercial rap that you would find when you started your new job in McDonald's during the 90s. You know, some shit about remember to wash your ass before handling the fries. And fuck me, with that, we're finally done with this volume. I think we can all agree that not a whole lot of stuff is happening anymore. It's just different characters living their life, which, you know, might appeal to some people, but if there was one redeeming quality that Sonichu had before, it was that it felt like a Saturday morning cartoon villain thing going on. So at least it had that charm, but now that's just gone and has been reduced to Chris deciding to inform everyone about her political views and all that stuff. So that's great. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next Webcomic Relief. Take care. Bye-bye. Volume 12 of Sonichu. It sure was something, alright. There's a few news before we get into the Patreon stuff. I hope you guys are willing to stick around for it. First of all, the unfortunate reasons why this video has taken so long. One of which being there was a death in the family, so I had to go take care of that. I have been laid off from the job that I got, so there's that. And there's also some personal stuff in the shape of romance that fell on the ground. So it's not been great, but yeah. So I've been tackling that, and when you tackle that sort of stuff, it becomes a little hard to sit down and try and be funny and you know, work on the Webcomic Relief. But yeah, so that's been happening. But yeah, now that I don't have a job anymore, this video is coming out in 4K, or at least it's intended to. That camera I was using there was the one I used for work, and now I have to hand that one back. So we will be returning to the original quality before. Sorry about that. But now that I don't have a job anymore, then I should be able to focus more on the Webcomic Relief, at least until I get another job. There will obviously be me like handing out resumes and all that stuff, but for now, yeah, this is what we got going. Anyway, enough with all this sad stuff. Let's talk about these amazing people that help sponsoring this show. Amocin, If you've watched this show for long enough, you will have heard the name Amocin, who brought you the great adult webcomic Druids taking place in the World of Warcraft universe. They have now finished that comic and discarded the Warcraft setting and set sails towards a new comic called Skylords. There'll be a link for that in the description. Nicholas Knudson. Nicholas hasn't gotten back to me about what he wants me to push, so for now just know that he's a really cool dude. The same thing goes for Rojaru. Rojaru doesn't have anything he wants me to push either, so he too is just a really cool guy. The Bonsai. The Bonsai has started doing sick, awesome commissions on Ko-fi, or Coffee, however you pronounce it, and you can commission this fantastic artist if you want some sick art done. He's currently doing dressuptober as a side thing, so you can check that out to see what amazing stuff this man can do. A link will be in the description. Sebastian Venborg. Sebastian wants me to push the Twitter account Curious Zelda, which has a rich plethora of cute and funny cat images. He doesn't own the account or anything, he just really likes cats, so there you go. Caesar. Caesar wants me to push the Webcomic Relief, which is the podcast hosted by yours truly and Cloudy Days that you might have seen pop up on this channel every now and again. The podcast is on every streaming platform you normally listen to podcasts on, and if you're a creator in any way or you want to know what's going on behind the scenes of the Webcomic Relief, it might be worth checking out. Hitori the Artist. Hitori wants me to push a friend of his Patreon, the Cherry Corp, that just started, in which they want to fund their webcomic that has for unfortunate reasons been halted in the middle of it all. You can read more about it on their Patreon, and it really seems like they really want to work on this comic. So, if you want to help them, please go and take a look. Hugo Junstrand. When he's not making my super awesome title cards, Hugo is also making super sick animations that you can commission, as well as sick music that you can all find on his YouTube channel. If you want to listen to awesome music covers with stylish and unique animations to them, then swing by Hugo's channel and give him a sub. Luke McKay. Luke McKay, that we all know and love from his Rooster Teeth comics and Balls to That, is currently working on comics for D&D Beyond and has now taken over doing comics for the Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms game at codenameentertainment.com. A link for that will be in the description. Marshall Starr. Marshall Starr, or DR as we call him, has not told me what it is that he wants me to push yet. So I'm gonna take the executive decision and promote their comic. You guessed it, Marshall Starr. If you want some good old sci-fi mixed with western presented with some banging art, then this is the comic for you. Why Not Warrior? Why Not Warrior wants me to push the webcomic known as Hope. The comic is about superheroes that gets into trouble and who has to save the universe from an evil empire known only as Spade. When a young girl, Raylan, gets targeted by the evil empire, she joins forces with her friends to take them down and save the galaxy. And of course, let's not forget to mention all these lovely people. Alex J, Affly, David McGibbon, Draco of Adrian, Cage Vafiel, Nina Ha, and Shiv. And also a super huge thank you to all the lovely people that you see here. If you want to support the show, change my life and make it so I can live off of YouTube and entertaining people, please go to my Patreon. Here you can donate anything you want every month and you will get a ton of awesome rewards for it. Just go to www.patreon.com/riseup. You can also go to TeePublic and get your hands on some Webcomic Relief merch. The link is in the description. If you want to watch me on Twitch, you can also do so at www.twitch.tv/crownlessking with 2 eyes. This is also where you can catch the Webcomic Relief live. If you don't want to support the show financially, at least I would like to ask you to think about liking the video, subscribing to the channel, or sharing your favorite Webcomic Relief episode with your friend. I'll see you guys at the next Webcomic Relief. Take care.